Hi Joyce, how are you? HGH, hi guys, thanks for joining. Please like and share the live. Shortly we'll be joining with Solly Philander, who will be doing a poem reading for us, and thereafter I'll be doing an analysis, so I'm looking forward to that. Please stick around, tell your friends about it. How are you guys doing tonight? Chrissy Bakami, thanks for joining. Hi, Altarida. Thanks. I'm good, thanks. And you? What are you doing tonight? Thanks for liking the live. Sheppy, thank you. How was your day today, people? What are you doing? Well, you are very welcome. Thank you, Altarida, for letting me know. I'm hoping that you will give me a follow. I mainly focus on lives with regard to teaching English lessons, like poetry analysis and literature analysis, everything to do with English, the language, like linguistics as well. And I also do videos on mental health and wellness. So please give me a follow. If you follow me, I'll also give you a follow back. Thanks, Altarida, for the follow. I'm going to give you a follow back quickly. Please remember to tap the screen and share, guys. The more people we get in here, the better. We're going to join Solly in a bit. I'm just waiting for him to get online, and then we will invite him as a guest. And how about you, Altarida? What content do you do on your channel? How's the weather by you guys? It started to get cold here, so I think winter is on the way. We it almost looked like rain, but no rain today. But it actually got a little bit hotter this evening, so I'm not sure what's up with the weather. Motivations, goal power, and mental health mainly. Oh, that sounds very nice. I will definitely look out for your lives and join. Please tap and share, guys. Let's get the likes up. Share with friends, please. I really appreciate it. I'm also just going to share quickly with a couple of people that's online. What you guys doing on this Thursday evening? Almost Friday, almost weekend. People live for weekends in this country. Anything planned? Okay, I think I'm going to try to see if Solly is online now. I think he is. Let's see. Please keep on tapping and liking, share it, guys. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. I think you're going to find the live very interesting. It's the first time that I collaborate with Solly Philander, so I'm very excited. It's going to be a very good poem reading. He's excellent and he has a lot of talent with regard to acting and poetry and all of that. So please keep on liking and sharing. Papa Me, thank you for joining. Hello, good evening, Glory Egwu. Thanks for joining. Altarida, I'm in South Africa and at the moment it's 9 p.m. Where are you from? Ethiopia. Okay. Are you also, what's today's date? The 18th of April? I had a friend, when I stayed in Port Elizabeth, I had a friend that came from Ethiopia. He was here around about 3 or 4 years when I met him. A very nice guy. And what I love about the Ethiopian culture is your food, actually. He took us to one of the Ethiopian restaurants in Port Elizabeth, and we actually ordered one of the, I can't remember what you call it, but it's almost like a big pancake made out of maize and milk that they mix up, and then all of the food gets put on top of it, and then you eat that with the food. That was actually very excellent, very nice. Oh, I asked if it's the 18th of April there by you guys as well. Football Prime, hello. Also from Ethiopia. Well, welcome. The food is excellent, really. And the coffee, probably the best coffee that I've had in my life. Please remember to like and share the live, guys. Okay, I'm inviting Solly now, so he will probably join us in a couple of minutes. It's going to be fun. We are connecting, I think. Guys, keep on tapping, please, and share the live so that your friends can join. They don't want to miss this. It's going to be good. I think TikTok is having a bit of a problem with connecting us tonight, but okay, we'll try again. Hi Quintus, thanks for joining. Brooke, how are you guys? I'm good. How are you, Yvonne?
Talk about. Away.
Hello, Solly.
How's it, Khaled? I cannot. Do we have a moment while I tell you my whole drama of the last half an hour?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, so I suddenly realized that I didn't have a way of getting the poem off the this
Oh,
place
okay.
onto so that I could read it from here. So I still had to run out to the shops and I don't know, do a million and one things and have a cigarette. And then so I ended up kind of just, oh, I hope I can read my own handwriting. But by the
Well,
time I got here, I was covered in sweat and completely frustrated. Literally. So, Christian, just a quick catch up. So, I'm with Easy Pass. If you're going to pay attention, then she's going to tell us now everything that's going to happen in the next little while. Um, and then
okay,
the
so
Christian, wag me nie politiek. Wag me nie politiek. It's a beautiful, I think it is such a beautiful, I'm going to read a poem and Easy Pass is with they do these modules of study. And so there's an exploration around different topics. And one of the modules, you can stop me anytime I'm going off. One of the areas is around poetry and literature and those kind of things. And because I am a poet, she has asked me to read a poem tonight, Thomas Pringle's The Slave Dealer, for a session that she's having. So that's what's happening.
and thanks for doing this, Solly. I appreciate it.
Ek is baie opgemaak. I'm very like, oh, I've been asked to read a poem. I can't believe it. That was me.
Well, sorry, before we start, I also just wanted to, just for the guys on my side that aren't aware who you are, I just wanted to tell them that you are a South African actor and that you're a poet and a writer and a very good one and an
Thank you.
award-winning one.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I also just wanted to ask you, with regard to poetry, what is it that that draws you to poetry, and what do you think, as a humanitarian, will what impact poetry can have in today's life, in today's society?
So I fully ascribe. There is a kind of a school of thought that maintains that of all the fine arts, poetry is one of the finest. That poetry is like the ultimate art. To take the hugeness of existence and find ways to synthesize it and to, what do they call it in cooking? That
Oh, to incorporate.
reduce the reduction, to create that reduction thing where, and then it's just these it's all enhanced. It's enhanced flavors, enhanced taste, enhanced sound, enhanced imagination, enhanced spirituality, enhanced everything. And to capture that in a sequencing of words and rhythm is just an extraordinary art. I mean, it really, really is. It is another music discipline. It is another literature discipline. It is another. It is all those things, and then how beautifully the thing is crafted together. That's like a painting. That's a work of art, and how the sounds and how the words play in a poem. That's dancing. It really is. Poetry is one of the ultimate art forms. I really am about that. And I think the idea is that for a lot of our understanding of how the world works is that we forget about the power of the word. The word was the original thing. It
Yes,
was the word first. People say first there was light, but of course it wasn't. It was the word first, the let there be light. And then, so the first thing was actually the word. And it's a very powerful thing because it illustrates that how with the word you can manifest. You
yes,
can manifest, you can create. The word is a creative thing. And so I think if one can internalize that wisdom, because it's a wisdom about art, it's a wisdom about creativity, and if you can internalize it and you can apply it in your existence, then you only stand to gain, and on all levels, but most importantly on a personal development level, on that idea of personal growth and self-development and manifestation. Poetry is one of the great tools for that, because you have to work. You have to work. You will feel it instinctively. Your spirit will feel it. Your cells will feel it. You'll know there is something about how these words are put together. But then you have to look. You have to think and wonder and wallow there in the words and play with the emotions and feel the stuff and allow it. Allow. You have to let your walls down. You have to do all the work. You have to do the work, but the reward is extraordinary because presumably the ultimate intention of art is to communicate something. So there's something in there. In that poem, there is a wisdom, there is something about living, there is something about eternity, there is something about the universal, there is something there that is that will aid you in your humanity, in your journey.
And something for everyone.
Yeah, everybody. That's a good poem is for everybody. A good poem sounds like it's written just for that one specific person.
Exactly.
But a really good poem is for everybody. Anybody should be able to read it and go, oh, connect. Literally. Mm.
Yes, definitely. So, Solly, I just wanted to give a little bit of background information on the poem before you
Okay.
start.
All right.
Um, the poem's name is The Slave Dealer, as you said, by Thomas Pringle. And those who don't know Thomas Pringle, he used to live in South Africa. He's a South African poet. And he used to write poetry that were based on the social issues of those times. And one of those social issues was slavery, and where you got slave dealers. And Thomas Pringle also fought for freedom of press and freedom of speech. So, because of his work, we are today allowed to have freedom of speech and freedom of press. And it also contributed to us becoming a democratic South Africa. So that's also just one of the powers that poetry and also other art forms have in society to make changes like these, to impact people on personal levels so that we can make changes in our societies.
Oh, I really like that you raised that. It's a very interesting thing because Diana Ferris, who is a very good friend of mine, an extraordinary poet, in the 90s, a poem of hers that she wrote about Sarki Bartman was read in the French Parliament because the Bartman, who is, you know, our voormoeder, her remains was displayed in the museum still. And there'd been much appeal for the return of her remains and all that kind of stuff, but those things are locked up in such protocol and such ideas about how the world should work that it just never came about. And one year they read Diana's poem in the French Parliament, and that year they agreed. I'm gonna cry.
That's excellent, but it just shows how
That year they agreed that her remains could come home, that they would send her home, and she's buried here at home now. So that's the power of words. The pen and the sword stuff, you know, the pen and the sword stuff.
we don't
Yeah.
often realize how powerful words can be and how important they are. And especially if it can go both ways. You
Yeah.
can use it for good or you can use it for evil. So it depends on what you do with it.
Shadow and light. Shadow and light. Elaine says solely as a religious or spiritual. So it's an interesting question, Elaine, because for me, creativity is spiritual. You know, we're made in the image of the Creator. So, and I'm a Christian, so my attitude to Christianity leans to that explanation. We are made in the image of the Creator, which makes us creators. If you're made in the image of something, you are like that thing, and so that makes us creators, and that then the power of the creator was what creating. So creativity is a spiritual thing. Just in my understanding of it, just in my understanding of it is how I mean. So I hope that answers your questions. Hey Bertram.
Question. Interesting question. But okay, Sonny, so if you are ready, then you can go ahead, make magic.
I don't think one is ever ready, for because that's the other thing about a really good poem is the poet was inspired. The
Yes.
poet was inspired, and it was a unique creative moment. And artists are striving towards those moments all the time. That's what we do. Our very existence is kind of based on the idea of that we will know these moments when we're completely in the flow and creation can speak through us and al die 150 goeters. And so a really good poem was a moment when that happened. So it's a hell of a challenge to kind all right, Solly. All right, enough briefing everybody. But it's a beautiful poem. It is beautiful on so many layers, and I would only want to do the idea of it justice, because there's no ways you do a poem like this justice without spending time with it, and really, and again, internalizing the messaging. But okay, give it my
You can do it, Solly. You can do it. Let the press double tap the screen there to motivate Solly for a bit.
double. You're not double tapping the screen. Extraordinary.
What's
Kyk
that?
een keer weer. Warren, ek gaan gou 'n gedig lees julle, okay? So daar bietjie kultuur, bietjie kultuur. It's never harmed anybody. The poem is called The Slave Healer, Thomas Pringle. From ocean wave, a wanderer came with visage tanned and done. His mother, when he told his name, scarce knew her long lost son. So altered was his face and frame by the ill course he had run. There was hot fever in his blood and dark thoughts in his brain. And oh, to turn his heart to good, that mother strove in vain. For fierce and fearful was his need. For fierce, fearful was his mood, racked by remorse and pain. And if, at times, a gleam more mild would o'er his features stray, when knelt the widow near her child, and he tried with her to pray, it lasted not, for visions wild still scared good thoughts away. There's blood upon my hands, he said, which water cannot wash. It was not shed where warriors bled. It dropped from the gory lash as I whirled it o'er and o'er my head, and with each stroke left a gash. With every stroke I left a gash, while Negro blood sprang high. And now all ocean cannot wash my soul from Bethesda, nor in pray, dear mother, that woman's wild death cry quash, nor in thy prayer, dear mother, quash that woman's wild death cry. Her cry is ever in my ear, and it will not let me pray. I look, I see, voice I hear, and when in death she lay and said, with me thou must appear on God's great judgment day. Now, Christ, from frenzy keep my son, the woeful widow cried. Such murder foul thou ne'er hast done. Some fiend thy soul betide. Nay, mother, the avenging one was witness when she died. The writhing wretch with furious heel, I crush it, no mortal nigh, but that same hour had dread appeal was registered on high. And now, with God, I have to, and dare not meet his eye. Yeah, that's it.
Well, Solly, I have to say I got goosebumps now. That was excellent.
Very intense poem. It's a very intense poem, I think. And it's I also think what's remarkable about it, and oh, the groove master. Thanks, Munira. You know what's very very telling for me about the poem, and I'm sorry to always be doing this. I'm actually not sorry, but you know, but the poem evoked for me from the first moment I read it. I, Genevieve, from the first minute I read this poem, I was reminded of being in Johannesburg in the 80s. And the amount of people that became acquaintances of mine, and the amount of people who were really good friends of mine, young white men and older white men who had come back from the border. They had come back from fighting in the defense force. And you know, it was compulsory. You know that under apartheid, it was compulsory to go to the border. And the army used, damn it, man, kids, just trick. From a trick, you had to go to the army to go and protect the damn system, this horrendous system. You had to go and do that. And parents had to send their children there. Mothers had to go down to Cape Town Station, take your little boy by the hand, lead him down to Cape Town Station, send him off on a train where you don't know what's going to happen to him. And when he comes back from there, he's a man. And what? When you ask him, he doesn't want to talk about it.
Exactly, because of all of the trauma that they got when they worked
Yes.
on those posts.
I knew someone who told me he could never tell, he couldn't tell his family the things that he was guilty of, the things that,
Yeah, it's horrendous, and you go there because you think that it is that's what you're supposed to do, It's exactly like the poem that you can see that this slave dealer is happening. He's not sure. He's traumatized by what he has done. He is guilty. He's feeling guilty, and that's the same with people that go out to war. When you go and fight there, and you have to be in battle with others and kill someone, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. It's not something that you're going to forget.
Well, it's the thing when you talk to people who have been in a war, that is the one thing that they all say, and the idea of training to go to a war, and that's what the guys used to tell me then about of going to the defense force. What they do there once you get there, those camps, and you must remember also that even after you finished your 2 years of military service, then when you're back in society, then you still had to go and do camps every year or something. You were called up and then you had to leave your life and go and fight for apartheid. Die
Yes,
vaderland. No, that was what it was. And the reality was that these weren't those young boys' choices. This is, you must understand this dilemma. You hear that widow. What does she say? It's not you. Impossible. That's not my child. It's some fiend who's got parents had to understand, and these are including parents who did not agree with apartheid, including parents who, you know what I mean? Because people forget that they forgot that it was illegal also for white people not to agree with apartheid. You couldn't.
yes.
Everybody,
Those were
anybody,
the
no matter
laws
who
that
you
were
were,
set, and
and
you had to obey them.
so you have sent your children off into the system that you already know is not you send your kid off into that, and then the it's not their decision. This is not your kid saying, okay, I've done matric now, I'm ready, what I'd really like to go and do in the world. No, this is you having to tell your child, hey,
You
you know
have to
what you're
do
doing next? You're going to the army. And the bizarre thing is that there's an equivalency, Genève. There's an equivalency. Growing up here in the Cape, in the Cape Flats, in these areas, there was equivalent. It was this idea that when your mother sat you down and said, let's talk about gangsterism, a complete one. It was completely because parents had to battle gangsters for their children. That's what you had to do.
Yeah.
You had to speak to your children. You had to be sure and watch their friends. You had to do all that stuff to stop them from going down that path. And
Yes,
so that
yes.
became a very, very, very but for me, the comparative thing for colored children is 76. For colored and black children is
Okay.
76 when they took to the street because they wanted to be educated in their home language. Yeah, and you have to be clear because a lot of people go, it's because they hated Afrikaans. It's not. It's not why kids took to the street.
It was
They really
because of
didn't.
home
They
language.
wanted to be educated in their home language because they were being force fed Afrikaans.
Yes.
You get force fed any language. You're gonna go, why can't I talk the language I'm comfortable in? So that's what happened then. Kids weren't marching in the street saying we hate Afrikaans. They didn't even saying we hate Afrikaners. They weren't saying they hate anything. They were just saying we want to be taught in our language.
Yes.
And so when those kids were fired up and beaten, that's that kind of pain. Because it's the same pain for a parent that your child is the perpetrator as it is for your child being the victim. I don't think there is a difference. There
No,
is a
I don't
difference in
think
our
there is.
quality of understanding of it, but the disappointment for a parent about an event or something that life changing happening to your child, I think it's the same. It's
Loss
the
is the
same.
same for
I would be
every.
mortified if my child, if one of my children turned out to be a complete racist. I would be. Do you know what I mean? I would be like, you're not my child. You're no child of mine. It cannot be. It's not possible. I don't get it. It's
Where do
human.
you come from?
Exactly. What dragged you in here? Because this ain't happening. Yeah. So those and I think the beauty of the poem is this idea that he isn't repentant for what he did. He's just scared of God. And does put into question, it pulls into question the whole idea of how we think that relationship works. That literally that
True.
God requires from us, if we take it from that Christian and spiritual
Yeah, from
context,
that
God
context.
requires from us to be the best people we can be. That's it. That's it. You know, say grateful, worship, and do this, and then just be the best person that you can be. That's what you need to love. It's what I need you to do. You need to care. You need to worry about those who are not as well off as you. That's what I need you to do. I need you to be this little angel on earth. That's really what I need you to do. So he's not concerned that he's not fulfilling that obligation. He's concerned that or do you know what I mean? He's not concerned about his humanity, about actually look what I've done and what does that make me? No, he goes, what does it make me in the eyes of God?
God, yes.
You
He's
see.
questioning what his fate will be after his death in the
Thank
afterlife.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's not remorse for what he did. It's actually concern for his well-being in the hereafter, presumably. And that's a beautiful, that for me is a beautiful analogy because it requires the reader to have sympathy anyway, to
Mm.
empathize anyway, to go, okay, here is an unrepentant kind of like, your brah. But still, what is your duty as a Christian? What is your duty as a spiritual being? Is to go, there is a reason that happened. And condemning the human being is
He's not one
not,
of
is
them.
not the win. So you have to find, and this is the challenge for the reader, the work for the reader, again, the work, it doesn't just fall into your lap. The work for the reader who's reading the poem is to understand, why do I have empathy for this man? How can I possibly want to think? Why is this poet trying to evoke empathy in me? What is it about this that is about my humanity?
Yes.
Beautiful poem, really, really
Very
lovely. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Solly, and thank you for joining. I'm going to do a quick analysis of the poem now. I don't know if you guys want to stick around. Otherwise, you can be free to
This
go.
lot's very uncultured, I'm afraid. No, this lot's very uncultured. I'm sorry. I'm not going to put us through that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean you
Okay,
guys. I mean
no problem.
unowned. The now funny poem. The name of the poem is The Slave Trader, The Slave Dealer by Thomas Pringle. It's a beautiful poem, really, really.
Thank you
And
for the time, Solly.
thanks
I'll see
for
you
asking
later after I'm
me.
done here.
I'm really
Bye.
glad you liked it. Bye, Donkey. Oh, so cool. I'm still so flattered to have been asked. Still completely thrilled. Completely thrown. Dalvin, do I have reason to be mad at you? If I have reason to be mad at you, I'm gonna tell you, Dalvin, I'm never unreasonably mad at people. So if you think I'm mad at you, then you did something. Ik antwoord nou. I was reading a poem. Wat gaat dan met julle? Culture, people, culture. It was a poem.
Sorry. Can you maybe just help me quickly here? It's the first time I'm hosting someone.
You
So
get off.
how do I
I
take
can,
it from the screen? Because I don't know how. Or
let
do
me
I
do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. I'm gonna see you later. There we go.
Okay.
It should go
Bye.
now. Bye.
Well, that's it, guys. Thank you. Thank you. I see all of your comments here now. I couldn't read it while we were busy with the hosting, but I see now. Um, Excellent. Thank you, Football Prime. Yes, he did a really great job of doing that poem. And it was a very good interpretation of the meaning behind the poem and the context thereof. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the poem. I'm just going to flip the screen so that you can see the words as I go through it. And then we'll do a quick analysis. That is now for the students that have requested the poem and need a bit of explanation surrounding the poem for their studies. So let me just flip this screen quickly. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the slave dealer Thomas Pringle. So the poem in total has 8 stanzas with 6 lines each, and then the rhyming pattern for the poem is A B A B A B, C D C D C D C D, and so on. If you see, you can see this with the end words of each line. It's every second line which the end words rhymes. Like with line 1, it's came, and the third line, name, done and sun, and frame, name, came. So that's the rhyming pattern of this poem. The first line tells us, from ocean's wave a wanderer came. So a wanderer refers to a traveler, and most often it was done by boat in those days. This poem was written during the 1800s with visage, tanned and done. This word visage refers to the appearance of the person who is coming off the boat. His mother, when he told his name, scarce knew her long-lost son. So he hasn't been home for a long time, and his mother couldn't even recognize him because of his physical appearance. And it was due to the weather and the circumstances on the boat as he traveled, but also because of his emotional turmoil that he was going through, this conflict that was happening inside of him because of the deeds that he has done. So altered was his face and frame, unrecognizable to the mother, by the ill course he had run. So this ill course, it refers to hardships and difficult times that he had endured. There was hot fever in his blood. The hot fever refers to anger. He was angry. And dark thoughts in his brain. The dark thoughts refer to haunting images. And oh, no turn his heart to good. That mother strove in vain, for fierce and fearful was his mood, racked by remorse and pain. So he was thinking all of these bad thoughts. He was probably having very intense depressive thoughts, and also thoughts that haunts him because of these deeds that he has done, and he couldn't get rid of them. And even if his mother tried to help him, her prayers didn't help. It says here, strove in vain, which means that she attempted to help him, but she couldn't. And his mood was fierce and fearful, which means that he was angry, and he also felt regret. And the remorse and pain that he felt also refers to guilt and suffering. And if at times a gleam more mild, which refers to a less troubled expression on his face, which means he was probably a little less worried at that time. When knelt the widow near her child. In this line, the widow indicates that this mother of her husband has died. So the son also doesn't have a father any longer, and she has been widowed. So she already has suffered loss in her life. And by the word child, this makes the slave dealer look fragile and smaller because of the word. In her eyes, he is still a child. He's not a grown man. He will always be her child. And he tried with her to pray. He tried, but he did not succeed, because in the next line it says, it lasted not, for visions wild still scared good thoughts away. So he couldn't even pray because of all of these thoughts that he were having. The guilt was eating away at him. There's blood upon my hands, he said. So he admits that he is guilty. And blood upon my hands is an idiom, or an expression used to indicate guilt, or when you have murdered or killed someone. which water cannot wash. The cannot wash by the water it's a figurative expression, because blood can actually wash off with water, but this blood that he's talking about is the blood on his soul, the stain on his soul that he has acquired through his acts. And then we go to, it was not shed where warriors bled. So the blood that was shed was not where warriors fight on a field where you are defending your country or anything like that. No, this blood was shed through the beatings that the slaves were getting with whipping them. And you can see that it's a whip being used in these words. Gory lash. Lash refers to whipping. So the blood was dropping from that whip every time the slaves were beaten, and this is one of the images that the slave dealer has in his head. And with each stroke left a gash. The gashes refer to the wounds that are left through the whip, and it's also a an example of cacophony. Cacophony is when you use words that bring about negative emotions and make you feel uneasy, like words such as gash, because it immediately makes you think about a wound. It's not nice to see, and people normally get a bit queasy when they see wounds like these. With every stroke, I left a gash. Again, there's repetition of the word gash, which it's meant to emphasize that the slave dealer is continuously having all of these images run through his mind over and over again. So he cannot get rid of it. It's repeated in his mind. With Negro blood sprang high, so that is racial reference, and it's the sign of racism that is occurring through slavery. And now all ocean cannot wash. The cannot wash is also repeated here, the same that was there in line 20, and it's meant to emphasize that no matter what he does, he cannot get rid of this guilt, and he cannot seem to get the forgiveness or repent for what he has done because of these haunting images that is going through his mind. My soul from murders die. Murders die refers to the blood of people that you have killed, the blood of innocence. Nor even thy prayer, dear mother, quash. Quash means to put an end to it or to suppress it. The woman's wild cry. So his mother's prayers couldn't even let this the slave woman's cries go away. It couldn't suppress it. It couldn't make it disappear. Her wild cry, the word wild, indicates that it's untamed, and this means that it's a very unnatural, wild cry that this woman gave, and because it was a death cry, it indicates that this cry that she gave was probably her last cry, her final words that she uttered before dying. Guys, please continue to like the live and share it, please. I do appreciate it. And also give me a follow if you are new here. I will give you a follow back after. I am seeing here a couple of other messages coming through. Donna, good evening. Thank you for following. Okay, so let's continue. Her cry is ever in my ear. So that means it's always. The word ever refers to always. And it will not let me pray. So the sound of this woman's cries is deafening to the slave dealer, and the word allow indicates that this is his punishment. He's being punished for what he's done, and that is why he's not allowed to pray. Her look I see, her voice I hear. He cannot forget her. He cannot forget the cries that she uttered. He cannot forget her face. The images are constantly in his mind. As when in death she lay, so that she was beaten to death by him, and when she lay there, she said, "With me thou must appear." And in this, she is uttering a warning. She's making him question his actions in light of his religion, because the following line says, okay, or if you read it together, and said, "With me thou must appear on God's great judgment day." So she's making him aware that there's consequences for his actions. And now the slave dealer actually realizes that, oh, okay, I am actually going to be held responsible for what I've done now. So one day I am going to have to face God, and I will be judged for what I have done. And you can see in these lines that the slave dealer is religious, that he is Christian, because of the capital letter of the words God and Judgment Day. So he does worry about his religion. He is religious, so he obviously believes in the Bible and also believes to follow the commandments. And this is what is creating the conflict that he is experiencing. So all of these bad thoughts, his turmoil, his remorse, and his guilt, it all stems from him knowing that what he has done is wrong in the eyes of his religion, in the eyes of God. Now, Christ, from frenzy, keep my son. This is the prayer of the mother. The frenzy, the word, it refers to a mental state. He is losing his mind over the thoughts that he is having. The woeful widow cried. Okay, woeful means that she's still grieving. So her husband obviously hadn't died much long ago. So it was recently, and she's still grieving her husband, and now she's also afraid of losing her son. So she's trying to help him and trying to save him. Such murder foul thou never hast done. So the mother is in denial, and she says, you couldn't have done this. This is not you. These deeds, this is not you. And if you have done this, then some fiend thy soul belied. So then it must have been some evil spirit that had possessed him to make him commit these crimes and commit these deeds. She doesn't believe that her son was capable of doing this. Nay, mother, the avenging one was witness when she died. So the word nay means no. Mother, the avenging one. So the slave dealer is telling his mother, no, I did, in fact, do these deeds. I did kill these slaves. And the avenging one, God, was witness to it. So he knows that God knows it, and that is why he is scared of the consequences when he has to face God on Judgment Day. The writhing wretch. The writhing wretch is usually referring to a female, and she was writhing. So with furious heel are crushed. So this woman was probably bound, and he was whipping her. And while he was whipping her, she was screaming and she was squirming away, and she tried to kick him and tried to put up a fight against him, but she couldn't. He was too powerful for her, and no mortal nigh. This means near death. So she was near death eventually. But that same hour her dread appeal, so she pled with him, please don't do this. But he kept on going. And this plead of hers was registered on high. So she was pleading with him to help her to not continue hitting her, but he did in any case. And what he had done and her cries and her pleads was witnessed by a higher power, which was God. So he knows that God heard these women's cries and saw him kill her. And now with God I have to deal. So he will be judged and dare not meet his eye. So the last line there, and dare not meet his eye. He is ashamed of what he did. He is fearful, and he knows there is consequences to his actions. So that's the meaning of the poem. This slave dealer is experiencing conflict over what he has done as a slave dealer in the trade, selling people, killing slaves, in light of his religion, which condemns killing and which the Ten Commandments tells you that you are not allowed to kill anyone. But he did, so he knows that he will be judged for that. Okay, so further on during this poem, just to give you an idea of some of the devices and the elements of the poetry that was incorporated. Okay, so there's a lot of repetition going on. Repetition is when words or sounds are repeated so that the words or the message is emphasized. So if you just have a look at stanza 1, from ocean's wave a wanderer came. So the W sound there is repeated, and that is a form of alliteration. Alliteration is when consonant sounds are repeated. There are a lot of sounds in this poem that are repeated throughout. So what you want to do is, if you need to quote one of these in your answers when you do the assignments, then you go through it like I've done there. Just underline all of the sounds that are repeated so that you know which ones are alliteration. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. So that would be like, for example, long lost son. Okay, so the vowel sound oh, long lost, that is repeated there. So that's also a form of repetition, but it's different between the vowel and the consonants. Remember, consonant sounds are alliteration and vowel sounds are assonance. So there's a lot of repetition going on with words as well, like fierce. Oh, no, where am I now? Sorry. Over and over, line 23. And this is to emphasize that the images that this poet or that this slave dealer is experiencing is repeating in his mind. It's playing in his head over and over again, and he can't get rid of it. Gash is also repeated in lines 24 and 25. It's to repeat this image of the wounds being left on the slave woman while he is beating her with a whip. Cannot wash is also repeated, and this is to emphasize that he cannot get rid of this guilty feeling that he is feeling, and that is why he keeps on seeing this woman's face and hearing her cries, and he cannot even pray because he is feeling so guilty and afraid to face God or to even be heard by him. Okay, so that was the rhyming patterns and all of that. Rhyming pattern A B A B A B for stanza 1. Stanza 2 would be C D C D C D and so on. The rhyming, it adds to the rhythm of the poem, okay? And repetition as well, it adds also to the rhythm of the poem and emphasizes the words and themes and the pace, the repetition and the rhyming pattern of a poem. It also contributes to the pace of the poem. In this poem, the tone, you can see that the tone is fearful, it's dark, gloomy, anxious, worried. This guy is suffering, he's in turmoil. The themes that come up in the poem include slavery, guilt, remorse, religion, loss, brutality, and racism. And diction, if diction is the choice of words that the speaker in the poem uses to convey a message. And there are a lot of words that are repeated. So choosing to repeat those words specifically, like blood and cannot wash and gash, it's supposed to invoke feelings of horror and disgust and queasiness with the readers so that they can realize how brutal this attack on the slaves were and how he is impacted by the images left after his deeds, after his actions. With regard to the religion aspect of the poem, the speaker indicates that this slave dealer is a Christian, his mother is a Christian, and she also um, prays to Christ. That is seen in line 37. Now, Christ, from frenzy, keep my son. So that is her prayer. She asks Jesus to help his son and to rid him of all of these images and the bad thoughts that he is experiencing. So his conscience is working on him, and he's guilty, and he knows he's going to face judgment, and for that he is very fearful. He knows that God will be dealing with him because of the actions, because of him killing slaves and his contribution to the slave trade and the situation with regard to slavery. So that is just a couple of the aspects and the devices and elements that have been used in this poem. It sounds different because it was written during the 1800s, where the people used very old forms of English. This is seen in the way that over and never is used in the poem. Like this is supposed to be over, so but spoken it would be over. So colloquialism, that is what it's called. It's when you use a non-standard form of English to in a poem, and that is also one of the devices or the elements of poetry. So if you need to use any of the examples, then you can just put quotation marks in all of the words that you see throughout the poem that has to do with that. So, yes, yeah. Line 14 also, over. Supposed to be over, it's only spelled over. So the apostrophe is in the place of the V. And in line 29, even. Supposed to be even, but the apostrophe replaces the V. So that is an example of colloquialism. Colloquialism is when a non-standard form of English is used, like slang or Old English or something that is not spelt the same way that we spell it in standard forms of English. So that is basically it, guys. That was the meaning of the poem and the themes that occurred. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching Solly. What did you guys think of him? He did an excellent job of conveying the meaning of this poem through his presentation thereof. What did you guys think of him? Sorry, I'm just trying to flip this camera again. There we go. Okay, so okay, hi Sky Girl, how are you? Um, do any of you have any questions regarding the poem? Those of you who have now stayed for the analysis and all of that. Hi Noreen, how are you? Donna, thanks for joining. Mrs. Ranshao, thanks for joining. Okay, so guys, anyone have a question, you can leave it in the comments. Or if there is maybe any of you that would want me to do a reading and an analysis on a poem or a short story, you can also leave your requests in the comments and then I will add it to the list. I am on YouTube as well. I do a lot of poems, short stories and novels for the students that are at university, so it helps them with their studies. And then I also do some videos on mental health and wellness, so you guys can go and check that out on my page. I think I've done a video and then also a recap of the live that I did with some tips for stress and anxiety. Okay guys, I'm just going to change over quickly because I see this battery is flat, so give me a few minutes. Those of you who want to join again after, then give me about 10 minutes and I'll be back afterwards. Thanks for joining, guys, and those who are going to go to bed now, sleep well.